You've probably spent hundreds or thousands of hours in building your product or service. That's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And now you're in the market, you're hustling, you're trying to get customers, and you're trying to have conversations, but for whatever reason, it's just not landing. It's quite possible that you have one of the best products or services that's in the marketplace, but you can't get anybody's attention. You can't get people to pay attention to you. If that sounds like what you've been through and what you're going through, stick around, because this channel is going to dig into all the things that you can do to go from 0 to 1 and build traction. If you're an early stage founder trying to get traction in the marketplace and you just haven't had any luck, make sure you stick around, because I'm going to give you the tools and the tactics that you need to build traction in the marketplace and eventually get to the point where you're going to need to scale. But before you can scale, you just need to get wins, you need to get traction, and you need to grow. And that's what this channel is going to be about. So let's be real. We've all been there. We've all been in a spot where we've put in the work, done the reps, thought we had a phenomenal product, thought we had phenomenal messaging, and for whatever reason, we can't get anybody to pay attention to us. We're lost in that sea of sameness, and we can't get anybody's attention long enough for us to move forward. The question that every founder has to deal with is, how do we rise above the sea of sameness? How do we rise above the noise? How do we stand out in an ocean of blue and just have enough conversations so that we can understand what we need to do to better connect with our customers? Because at this stage, when you're at 0 to 1, when you have very few customers or no customers at all, every conversation is as good as currency, because it's those conversations that's going to lead you to currency. And that's what I'm here to help you do. So to give you a little bit of background, I've spent my entire career doing exactly what I'm talking about right now, building something from nothing. Whether you're talking about opening completely new markets, whether you're talking about building traction in super niche products, or whether you're talking about launching a whole new product where you really don't know if it's going to land, but you got to figure it out. I've done it all. And I've done this for the better part of 20 plus years. And I've had the most success when the economy has been completely crap. Does that sound like what you're dealing with right now? You're probably feeling like the deck is stacked against you. And the reason why you're feeling that way is because you're playing a different game than what you should be as an early stage founder. If what I'm saying to you right now in terms of what you've faced in the market resonates, drop me a comment and let me know what the biggest challenge you've faced in getting traction in your product or service. So let me give you some perspective. When we're talking about building something from nothing, I helped a niche tech company during the housing crash expand from 40 customers to over 350 customers and open up 2 international markets in the middle of the disaster that was the housing crash. After that, I went into staffing. And when I was in staffing, I was handed a territory that was historically underperforming. And within a matter of 18 months, I brought on 27 new accounts in that territory. And those 27 new accounts accounted for more new accounts brought into the company than all of my peers put together within that division. And then I did it again in the applicant tracking space, helped launch a completely new product and got traction in the marketplace there. Then I went back into staffing and opened up a completely new market that had 0 clients, 0 brand recognition, 0 revenue, and built it into an $8 million business. I've been in executive coaching twice and helped those companies completely revamp their outbound process so that they could consistently get in front of the customers that they needed to get in front of to build traction and accelerate in the marketplace. And I've done it across HR tech, TA tech, ed tech, products, and services. So when you're thinking about the stuff that you're going through right now and the challenges that you're having in getting traction in the marketplace, I've experienced getting kicked in the face probably more than a lot of people would like to admit. And I've learned from every single one of those experiences. And what I've done is I've learned from all of those experiences, and now I'm sharing the lessons learned from there and sharing the system that I've used to build success over time with anyone that wants to apply this in the market of today. When you look at all of the problems that we've been facing, The big reason why those problems exist is because we're running somebody else's playbook. And specifically, we're running the big guy's playbook. All of the companies that have name recognition and brand recognition, if Workday goes into an organization, or if Oracle goes into an organization, or if Phenom is trying to sell you something, if BetterUp is trying to sell you something, those companies have a certain amount of reputation that's already been built. That's not us. We don't have the name recognition. We don't have the brand recognition. We don't have the resources. We don't have the credibility yet to run the playbook that the big guys run. And when we understand that, that requires us to have a fundamental shift in how we approach the marketplace. What that means is that we have to be scrappy and smart and make every conversation count, and every lead needs to be maximized so that we're getting the most out of every single conversation, and that's moving us closer to traction. That's a whole different game. And that's what I'm going to teach you over the weeks with what I've done across many different industries in the B2B space and built multi-million-dollar pipelines. If what I've said about the challenges that you've had in just winning the war for attention is something that you've dealt with, drop me a comment and drop me the biggest response that you've gotten from people that you've tried to get in front of and what they've said. I might be able to help you there. So when you think about how do you get started, and when we think about how do we actually get going with what we need to do, there's three things that we need to keep in mind. There's three things that you need to think about, and we'll get into the details of this in subsequent videos. But the three things that we need to commit to really has to do with unlearning a lot of the stuff that we've been taught when it comes to getting traction in the marketplace. We need to rethink, refocus, and reimagine how we go to market. From a rethinking perspective, we need to understand that we cannot focus on running the same playbooks that the big guys run. That's a dead end. That's how you end up smiling and dialing and spinning your wheels and getting stuck in the mud. That's got to change. We've got to refocus. And by refocus, I mean this. We've been taught that we need to go to market one particular way. And that way that we've been taught has been the same outbound playbook that's been in place since the 80s and 90s. And that assumes that our buyer doesn't know what they're doing, that they don't have any information. We have to refocus on how we go to market and have it be a much more equal footing that we're going to market with. And we need to do two things. When we're talking about refocus, we need to make sure that we're focused on having the buyer be the center of the engagement. And we need to be customer obsessed when we're dealing with those folks. And the second piece of refocusing has to do with discipline around when you get the opportunity to sell. Just because you're getting a signal doesn't mean that it gives you permission to pitch. So we need to be refocused and disciplined on making sure that you've created enough space and trust to earn the opportunity to sell. And then the third R is reimagine. We have to reimagine how we go to market. It's not smiling and dialing that's going to get you wins, especially at this stage of the game where we're early and nobody knows who we are. No amount of smiling and dialing is going to get the job done. So what we need to do is reimagine an outbound motion where we're getting as much of the marketplace to engage with us and have conversations with us without having it feel for them like they're being pushed, pulled, and dragged into something that they don't want to do. And that's the central reason why nobody is picking up our calls, nobody is responding to our emails, nobody listens to our voicemails. It's because our customers have been beaten into submission by the same silly playbooks that have been in place since the 80s. And sellers and founders and anybody and everybody keeps trying to figure out a way to just amp more volume out there into the marketplace. And all that does is make people ignore you and avoid you like the plague. That's what we're dealing with. And when we commit to rethinking, refocusing, and reimagining how we do things, which is what I'm going to teach you over the next several videos, and I could create hundreds of videos, believe me, on how to do this. That's how we're actually going to build traction. If this sounds like something that you're interested in, if it sounds like something that's going to help you, Stick around. Drop me a subscribe. Drop questions in the comments. I'll respond to every single one. And stay tuned for more, because the next thing that we're going to talk about is understanding buyer behavior. And that understanding buyer behavior and how buyers are buying are going to be critical to you as the founder, as an early stage founder, on how we can shift the game so that we're actually meeting every buyer where they're at, and almost every single buyer is going to raise their hand and want to talk to us. Thanks for watching. If you have questions, drop them in the comments. I'll definitely respond, but looking forward to sharing with you all the stuff that I've experienced and done for the better part of 2 decades that's helped early stage founders go from 0 to 1 to traction to growth.